The text message glowed like a neon sign in the dark garage. Can't wait to feel you inside me again, D. I stared at my wife's phone, which had been buzzing incessantly while she showered. Dana always left it lying around, never thinking I'd check. Why would I? We'd been married 18 years. We had a son in college, a mortgage, and what I thought was a solid life together. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name is Caleb Morris, and I fix air conditioners for a living. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills in our little Indiana town of Millbrook. Population 12,000, where everyone knows everyone's business, and secrets spread faster than gossip at the church potluck. The phone buzzed again. Another message from someone named Grant. Your husband working late again? Perfect. I'll bring wine. My hands started shaking. Not from fear. From rage. Pure, undiluted fury that made my vision blur around the edges. I could hear Dana humming in the shower, probably getting ready for her book club meeting that apparently involved getting screwed by some guy named Grant. I took screenshots of everything. Call it instinct, call it paranoia, but 20 years of fixing broken things teaches you to document the problem before you start repairs. The shower shut off. I placed the phone exactly where I'd found it and went back to pretending I was organizing my toolbox. My hands moved automatically, sorting wrenches and screwdrivers while my mind raced. Honey, Dana called from upstairs. I'm heading to book club in an hour. Jennifer's picking me up. Jennifer. Right. Another lie in the growing pile. Sure thing, babe, I called back, my voice steady despite the hurricane in my chest. Have fun with your literature. She came downstairs 20 minutes later, looking better than she had in months. New perfume, hair done professionally, wearing the black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. The anniversary where she'd seemed distracted all evening, checking her phone every 5 minutes. You look beautiful, I said, and meant it. That was the hell of it. She was beautiful. 40 years old and still turned heads at the grocery store. Auburn hair, green eyes, the kind of smile that made men forget their own names. Thank you. She kissed my cheek, her perfume overwhelming. Don't wait up. You know how Jennifer gets when she's had wine. The doorbell rang. We both froze. Dana's face went white, then red, then white again. Expecting someone? I asked conversationally. No, I walked to the front door and opened it. Standing on my porch was a guy who looked like he'd stepped out of a cologne advertisement. Tall, dark hair, expensive suit, holding a bottle of wine and flowers. His confident smile faltered when he saw me. Can I help you? I asked. I'm looking for Dana. Grant, I presume? His face went through the same color changes Dana's had. Behind me, I heard her sharp intake of breath. Dana, I called over my shoulder, your book club is here. She appeared beside me, wrapped in her bathrobe now, the black dress abandoned upstairs. Grant's eyes darted between us like a trapped animal. Well, I said, stepping aside, don't let me keep you from your literary discussion. Please come in. Grant hesitated. Dana shook her head frantically behind my back. Actually, Grant stammered, I think there's been a mistake. Oh, there's definitely been a mistake, I agreed. Several of them, I'd say, but please don't leave on my account. You brought wine and everything. I pulled out my phone and started recording. What's your full name, Grant? For my records. I should go. Grant Beck, Dana whispered, her voice barely audible. Thank you, sweetheart. Grant Beck. I kept the camera rolling. And how long have you been helping my wife with her book club activities? Grant turned and ran. Actually ran, leaving the flowers and wine on my doorstep like some pathetic offering to the gods of adultery. Dana stood there in her bathrobe, tears streaming down her face. Caleb, I can explain. I'm sure you can. I stopped recording and forwarded the video to myself. But first, let me send this to a few people. Your boss, for instance. Doesn't Dana Whitmore and Associates have a policy about workplace relationships? Oh wait, that's right. You told me Grant was just a client. Her face crumpled. Please don't. But I was already typing, my fingers moving with surgical precision. Send to Shannon Reese, her best friend and HR manager at the office. Send to my buddy Mike at the garage. Send to my cloud storage. There, I said, pocketing my phone. Now we can talk. The next morning, Dana was gone. She'd packed a bag sometime before dawn and left a note on the kitchen counter. Staying at Shannon's. We need space to figure this out. Space. Like 18 years of marriage was something you could figure out over coffee and girl talk. I went to work because that's what you do. You fix what's broken, even when your whole life is falling apart. My first call was Mrs. Henderson's ancient central air unit, which wheezed and rattled like a fading horse. Heard Dana's been spending time with that Beck fellow, Mrs. Henderson said while I worked. She was 75 and knew everything that happened in Millbrook before it happened. News travels fast. Shannon Reese called her sister, who told her daughter, who works at the bank with my niece. Mrs. Henderson handed me a glass of iced tea. For what it's worth, Caleb, everyone thinks you're handling this with class. Class. Right. If only she knew about the screenshots, the forwarded messages, the little seeds of destruction I'd planted in Dana's perfectly manicured world. My phone rang around noon. Shannon Reese. Caleb, we need to talk. About? You know about what? Dana's a mess. She's been crying all morning. Funny. She seemed fine last night when she was planning to screw another man in my house. Silence, then. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple, Shannon. She's cheating. With a client, no less. Isn't there some kind of professional standards issue there? Don't threaten her job, Caleb. She made a mistake, but a mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. This is a choice. Multiple choices over what I'm guessing has been months. I hung up and went back to work. But Shannon's call bothered me. There was something in her tone, something protective that went beyond friendship, like she was defending more than just Dana's feelings. That evening I drove past Shannon's house. Dana's car was there, along with Grant's silver BMW, all three of them, having what I imagined was a very interesting conversation about damage control. I parked across the street and waited. Around 9 o'clock, Grant came out. Even from a distance, I could see he was agitated, gesturing wildly as he talked on his phone. He got in his car and drove toward downtown. I followed. Grant went to Murphy's Bar, the kind of place where Millbrook's professional class went to drink away their problems. I waited 5 minutes, then went in. He was at the bar, already 3 drinks deep by the look of it. I ordered a beer and sat 2 stools down. Rough day? I asked conversationally. Grant's head snapped up. When he saw me, his face went pale. What do you want? Just a beer and some conversation. You look like a man with something on his mind. Stay away from me. This is a public place, Grant. Besides, we should get to know each other. After all, you've been getting to know my wife pretty intimately. The bartender, a guy named Tommy who'd gone to high school with me, was listening with obvious interest. By tomorrow, this conversation would be all over town. Look, Grant said, his voice low. What happened last night was you showing up at my house with wine and flowers, expecting to have closeness with my wife while I worked late. I took a sip of beer. What I'm curious about is how long it's been going on. Grant stood up, threw money on the bar. I don't have to listen to this. No, you don't. But you might want to check your work email tomorrow. I sent some interesting screenshots to your boss. Apparently using company resources to arrange personal meetings with clients is frowned upon. He stopped halfway to the door. You son of a bitch. Actually, my mother was a saint, but thanks for asking. Grant left, and I finished my beer in peace. Tommy leaned over. That the guy? That's the guy. Want another beer? On the house. Thanks, but I've got work to do. The screenshots I'd sent to Grant's boss bore fruit faster than I'd expected. By Wednesday, Grant was suspended pending an investigation into inappropriate client relationships. Dana was suspended too, since she worked for the same company and had clearly been involved in whatever Grant was doing. My phone started ringing. "Caleb, this has gone too far." It was Dana calling from Shannon's house. "Has it? Because from where I'm sitting, it's just getting started. You're destroying my career." "I'm not destroying anything. I'm just sharing information. If your career can't survive the truth, maybe you should have thought about that before you started screwing clients." "It wasn't like that." "Then explain it to me. Help me understand how 18 years of marriage led to you planning to bring another man into our house." Silence. "That's what I thought," I said. "Call me when you're ready to have an honest conversation." I hung up and went back to work. But the calls kept coming. First Mike from the garage, wanting to know if I needed anything. Then my neighbor Bob, offering to help with yard work. Then my brother in Chicago, who'd somehow heard about the situation. "You okay, little brother?" "I'm fine, David. Just dealing with some marriage issues." "Marriage issues? From what I heard, Dana's been running around with some corporate asshole." "News travels fast. Mom called. She's worried about you." "Great. Now my mother knew. By evening, my entire extended family would be calling to offer support, advice, or both. But it was the call from Coach Ray that surprised me. Ray ran the boxing gym where I'd been working out for the past 5 years, trying to stay in shape as I approached 45. "Heard you might need to hit something," Ray said without preamble. "I'm managing. Come in tonight, after hours. Bring your gloves." Ray's gym was empty except for the two of us. He held the heavy bag while I worked out 18 years of frustration, disappointment, and rage. My hands were raw by the time I stopped. "Feel better?" "Some." "Good. Now listen to me." Ray was 60, built like a brick wall, with the kind of street wisdom that comes from surviving 40 years in a rough business. "You got 2 choices here. You can let this eat you alive, or you can use it." "Use it how?" "That's up to you. But whatever you decide, make sure it's something you can live with afterward." I drove home thinking about Ray's words. What could I live with? What would actually make this right? The answer came to me as I pulled into my driveway. Dana's car was there, parked like she'd never left. She was sitting on the front porch, still wearing the clothes she'd had on 3 days ago. "We need to talk," she said. "Now you want to talk?" I never wanted this to happen. But it did happen. "For how long, Dana?" She looked down at her hands. 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of lies, deception, planning. Half a year of her coming home to me after being with him. "Where?" "Hotels, mostly. His apartment a few times. Our anniversary dinner. You kept checking your phone. He was texting me. The weekend you went to visit your sister in Fort Wayne? I was with him." Each admission was a knife twist. I sat down on the porch steps, suddenly exhausted. "Why?" "I don't know. He made me feel different. Exciting. Like I was 25 again." "And I made you feel old?" "You made me feel invisible." That hit harder than I'd expected, because maybe there was some truth in it. Maybe I had gotten comfortable, complacent. Maybe I had stopped seeing her as anything more than the woman who shared my house and my bed. "So you decided to fix that by screwing someone else?" "It wasn't supposed to happen. It just did." Things like this don't just happen, Dana. You made choices. You chose to meet him. You chose to lie to me. You chose to plan to bring him to our house. She started crying again. "I know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught?" She didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. "I want you to leave," I said. "This is my house, too." "Actually, it's not. Check the deed. I bought this house before we got married. You're not on the mortgage, not on the title. Legally, you're a guest who's overstayed her welcome. Her face went white. You can't just throw me out. I can, and I am. You have until Sunday to get your things. What about our son? Ross is 19 and in college. He can make his own decisions about who he wants to talk to. I stood up and walked to the door. Caleb, please, we can work through this. No, I said without turning around. We can't. Dana moved out that Sunday, taking half the furniture and most of my patience. Ross called that night, his voice carefully neutral. Dad? Mom told me what happened. I'm sure she did. What's her version? That you two are having problems and decided to separate. That's one way to put it. The other way is that your mother has been having an affair for 6 months and got caught. Silence. Then, shit, Dad. I'm sorry. Not your fault, son. Not your problem either. This is between your mother and me. Are you okay? I'm working on it. But I wasn't okay. I was angry, hurt, and increasingly suspicious about how this whole thing had started. 6 months ago, Dana had suddenly become interested in improving herself. New clothes, new hairstyle, new social circle, and at the center of that new social circle was Shannon Reese. Shannon, who'd called to defend Dana. Shannon, who'd taken Dana in after the confrontation. Shannon, who seemed awfully invested in my wife's extramarital activities. I started paying attention. Shannon lived in one of Millbrook's newer subdivisions, the kind with HOA rules and mandatory lawn care. I drove past her house on my way to and from work calls, noting the comings and goings. Dana's car was there most days. Grant's BMW showed up regularly, too. On Thursday, I saw something interesting. Grant's car was there when I drove past at noon. Dana's car wasn't. I parked at the end of the block and waited. Grant came out 2 hours later, looking satisfied and relaxed. He got in his car and drove away. 10 minutes later, Shannon came out to get her mail, wearing a bathrobe in the middle of the afternoon. Interesting. I started doing some research. Shannon Reese, 41, divorced, no kids. She'd worked at Dana's company for 3 years, starting about 6 months after her divorce was finalized. Before that, she'd worked for a competitor across town. A competitor I'd done work for. In fact, I'd done a major HVAC installation for them 4 years ago. The job had gone badly. Their building manager had tried to cut corners on the materials, and when the system failed 6 months later, he'd blamed my work. I'd threatened to sue for defamation, and he'd backed down, but not before firing several people in his department, including, I discovered, Shannon Reese. She'd been the office manager who'd signed off on the cheap materials. She'd lost her job because of me, gone through a messy divorce partly due to financial stress, and ended up working for a smaller company at lower pay. And now she was sleeping with the man who was sleeping with my wife. The picture was becoming clearer, and I didn't like what I saw. Friday night, I followed Grant from his apartment to Murphy's bar. He met Shannon there, not Dana. They sat in a corner booth talking intensely over drinks. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but their body language told the story. This wasn't a casual meeting between friends. I took pictures. Saturday morning, I called Dana. We need to talk, all of us. What do you mean, all of us? You, me, Grant, and Shannon. Tonight, Murphy's bar, 8 o'clock. Caleb, I don't think... 8 o'clock, Dana. Be there, or I start making phone calls to people who might be very interested in what I've discovered about your friend Shannon. She hung up. But I knew she'd be there. She had to be. Murphy's bar was crowded for a Saturday night, which was perfect. I wanted an audience for what was about to happen. Dana arrived first, looking nervous and overdressed. Shannon came in 5 minutes later, scanning the room like a predator checking for threats. Grant was last, wearing the kind of casual clothes that cost more than most people's car payments. I was already at a table in the center of the room, where everyone could see and hear what was about to unfold. Sit down, I said when they approached. Caleb, Shannon started, this is ridiculous. We're all adults here. Yes, we are, which makes what you've done even more pathetic. I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table, the photo of Shannon and Grant clearly visible on the screen. Interesting picture, don't you think? Taken last night right here in this bar. You two look very close. Dana's face went white. Grant started to stand up. Sit down, Grant. We're just getting started. You're insane, Shannon said, but her voice was shaky. Am I? Let me tell you a story. 4 years ago, I did some work for Henderson and Associates. The job went bad because someone in their office decided to save money by using substandard materials. When the system failed, they tried to blame me. I fought back and several people lost their jobs. I looked directly at Shannon, including one Shannon Reese, who was the office manager who signed off on those materials. The color drained from her face. Now, fast forward to 18 months ago. Shannon gets hired at Dana's company. She befriends my wife, starts encouraging her to live a little, introduces her to new people like Grant Beck. I turned to Grant. Grant, who just happens to be recently divorced, financially motivated, and willing to play along with whatever game Shannon is running. You're paranoid, Grant said, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. Am I? Then explain this. I pulled up another photo on my phone. This is you leaving Shannon's house Thursday afternoon. Dana wasn't there, but you were, for 2 hours, in the middle of the day. Dana looked at Shannon, then at Grant, confusion and hurt warring on her face. It's not what you think, Shannon said quickly. Really? Because what I think is that you've been playing my wife and your boyfriend against each other, using Dana to get revenge on me for costing you your job, while keeping Grant happy with promises of whatever it is men like him want. The bar had gone quiet around us. Tommy the bartender was listening openly now, along with half the customers. You're sick, Shannon hissed. No, I'm thorough. See, I spent some time this week looking into your finances, Shannon. Public records are wonderful things. You're in debt up to your eyeballs, divorce settlement, legal fees, credit cards. But Grant here has money, doesn't he? And Dana? Well, Dana has access to our joint accounts. I pulled up my banking app. Funny thing, over the past 6 months, Dana's been withdrawing cash. Small amounts, nothing I'd notice right away. But it adds up, almost $8,000. Dana's mouth fell open. I never... Check your purse, sweetheart. I bet you'll find receipts, ATM slips, things you forgot about, things Shannon helped you forget about. Shannon stood up abruptly. I don't have to listen to this. Actually, you do, because I'm not done. I stood up too, and my voice carried across the suddenly silent bar. You wanted to destroy my marriage to get back at me for your job. You manipulated my wife into an affair, probably convinced her it was just harmless fun at first. You've been stealing money through her, and you've been screwing her boyfriend behind her back. I looked around the room, making eye contact with people I'd known for years. This is Shannon Reese, everyone. This is what she does to people who cross her. She destroys families for revenge. Shannon's face was red with rage and humiliation. You bastard! Maybe, but I'm an honest bastard. Can you say the same? Grant grabbed Shannon's arm. We're leaving. No, Dana said suddenly. Wait. She was staring at Shannon with a look I'd never seen before, pure, cold fury. Is it true? About you and Grant? Shannon didn't answer. Is it true about the money? Still nothing. Dana reached into her purse and pulled out her wallet. Inside were ATM receipts, just like I'd predicted. Her hands shook as she looked at them. You bitch, she whispered. You lying, manipulative bitch. She threw her drink in Shannon's face. The bar erupted. People were shouting, phones were out recording, and Shannon was screaming obscenities while Grant tried to drag her toward the door. But I wasn't done. One more thing, I called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. Shannon Reese embezzled money from her last job, too. That's why she really got fired. Check the court records if you don't believe me. That was a lie, but it would take them weeks to prove it, and by then the damage would be done. Shannon broke free from Grant and lunged at me, I stepped aside, and she crashed into an empty table. The whole bar was in chaos now, people recording everything, shouting questions, demanding answers. I walked calmly to the door. "Caleb," Dana called after me. I turned back. She was standing in the middle of the chaos, tears streaming down her face, looking lost and broken. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry." "I know you are," I said, "but sorry doesn't fix this." And I walked out into the night. The video of the bar confrontation went viral in Millbrook within hours. By Sunday morning, everyone in town had seen Shannon's humiliation, heard the accusations, watched Dana throw her drink, and Shannon's subsequent meltdown. My phone rang constantly, reporters from the regional newspaper, friends offering support, potential clients who'd heard about the drama and somehow decided that made me more trustworthy for their HVAC needs. Dana called around noon. "Can I come over? I need to get some things." "Your stuff is on the front porch." "Caleb, please, we need to talk." "No, we don't. We needed to talk 6 months ago before you started screwing Grant. We needed to talk when you were withdrawing money from our accounts. We needed to talk when you were planning to bring him to our house. Now, we need lawyers." I hung up and went to the kitchen to make coffee. Through the window, I could see Dana's car pulling up. She got out slowly, like an old woman, and walked to the porch where I'd left 3 boxes of her belongings. She knocked on the door. "Please," she called. "Just 5 minutes." I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "What do you want, Dana?" "I want to explain." "You want to make excuses. There's a difference." She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, her face puffy from crying. "You were right about Shannon, about all of it. She played me, used me to get back at you." "I know. I was so stupid, so desperate to feel, I don't know, special, wanted. She made me believe that you didn't care about me anymore, that our marriage was over anyway." Maybe it was. That stopped her. She'd been expecting anger, accusations, demands for details. She hadn't expected honesty. "Was it?" she asked quietly. "I don't know. Maybe we both stopped trying. Maybe we both got comfortable and forgot we were supposed to be partners, not roommates. Can we fix it?" I looked at her standing on my porch, holding the remnants of our life together, and felt something I hadn't expected. Pity. "No," I said. "We can't." "Because of what I did? Because of who you became when you did it? Because you let someone else manipulate you into betraying everything we built together? Because when you had a choice between talking to me about problems in our marriage and screwing someone else, you chose the easy path." She started crying again. "I love you." "Maybe you do, but you love yourself more. And that's not enough to build a marriage on." I closed the door and listened to her cry on my porch for 10 minutes before she finally left. That afternoon, Coach Ray called. "Heard things got interesting at Murphy's last night." "You could say that. How do you feel?" I thought about it. Empty, tired, but not angry anymore. "Good. Anger's useful for a while, but it'll eat you alive if you hold on to it too long." "What now?" "Now you figure out what comes next. You're 45, you own a successful business, you're free from a marriage that wasn't working. That's not punishment, Caleb. That's opportunity." He was right, but it would take time to feel that way. Monday morning brought news that Shannon had been fired from Dana's company. The investigation into her finances had turned up irregularities, and her professional reputation was destroyed. Grant had been transferred to another branch in another state, effectively exiled from Millbrook. Dana had been quietly let go as well, with a severance package that suggested the company wanted to avoid any more drama. I felt no satisfaction in their downfall. They'd destroyed themselves. I'd just provided the stage. Tuesday, Ross called. "Dad, I'm coming home this weekend." "You don't need to do that." "Yeah, I do. We need to talk." "About what?" "About how you completely destroyed 3 people's lives in one night and somehow became the most popular guy in town." That surprised me. Popular? Dad, you're like a folk hero, the wronged husband who exposed the conspiracy and got perfect revenge without breaking any laws or hurting anyone physically. People are calling you brilliant. I don't feel brilliant. I feel tired. Well, get some rest, because I think you're about to be very busy. He was right. By Wednesday, I had more work than I could handle. Word of mouth in a small town is powerful, and apparently being the victim of a dramatic betrayal made people trust me with their air conditioning. I hired 2 assistants and bought a new truck. 3 months later, I was installing a new HVAC system for the Millbrook Community Center when I saw Dana in the grocery store parking lot. She was getting out of an old Honda, not the BMW she'd been driving when we were married. She saw me too and walked over. "Hi, Caleb." Dana. She looked better than she had that day on my porch. Thinner, tired, but not broken. "I heard your business is doing well." "Can't complain." "I'm glad. You deserve success." We stood there awkwardly for a moment, 2 people who'd shared a life trying to figure out how to be strangers. "I got a job," she said finally. "Receptionist at a dental office in the next town over. It's not much, but it's honest work." "That's good." "I'm in therapy, trying to figure out why I made such terrible choices." "That's good too." "I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to, but I want you to know that I understand now what I threw away. What we could have been if I'd been brave enough to talk to you instead of letting Shannon manipulate you into an affair." Yes. I looked at her, this woman I'd loved for 18 years, and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not even pity anymore. Just emptiness where she used to be. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Dana. I really do." "What about you? Are you happy?" I thought about it. "I'm getting there." She nodded and walked away. I watched her go, then went back to work. That evening I was having dinner at the new restaurant downtown when a woman approached my table. "Excuse me, are you Caleb Morris?" She was attractive, maybe 40, with kind eyes and a nervous smile. "Yes." "I'm Jennifer Walsh. I just moved to town, and I heard you do HVAC work. My air conditioner is making terrible noises." "I can take a look at it tomorrow if you'd like." "That would be great." She hesitated. "I also heard, well, everyone's heard your story, about what happened with your wife. It's a small town. People talk. I went through something similar 2 years ago. My husband and my sister. It nearly destroyed me. I'm sorry. The thing is, watching how you handled it, it gave me hope that someone could go through betrayal like that and come out stronger instead of bitter." She handed me a card with her number. "Call me about the air conditioner, and if you ever want to have coffee with someone who understands what you've been through, well, call me about that too." She left, and I sat there holding her card, thinking about second chances and new beginnings. 6 months ago, I'd thought my life was settled, predictable, safe. I'd been wrong about all of it. My marriage had been a lie, my wife had been a stranger, and my safety had been an illusion. But I'd survived the destruction of everything I thought I knew about my life. More than survived, I'd thrived. My business was better than ever. My relationship with my son was stronger, and for the first time in years, I felt like myself again. The villain, they'd called me after that night at Murphy's bar. The man who destroyed 3 people's lives with nothing but truth and perfect timing. Maybe I was a villain. But if being a villain meant refusing to be a victim, if it meant fighting back when people tried to destroy me, if it meant exposing lies and holding people accountable for their choices, then I was proud to be the villain.